So Barry McCock Inner released a video. I don't know who this guy is. Called the 10 most disappointing NBA players in 2024. Now this is from February 26th, so we'll see how outdated it is given Mr. JG is on the thumbnail. But let's get the video started, man.
NBA regular season. And while everybody always says that in order to make your day better, you should be positive, I'm going to be a negative Nancy in this video, and I'm going to look at the top 10 most disappointing NBA players this season. Now, again, I need to point out there are different levels of disappointing. There are disappointing rookies, guys who had some hype coming into the league that just plain stink. Then you got guys who are still okay or good, but haven't been great, at least relative to expectations. You have role players who were expected to have much more of an impact, that have had down years, at least compared to the year before. There's a lot of versatility here, and I thought it would be an interesting video topic, and that's why I did it. You can see here I'm starting off with some of my dishonorable mentions, aka those who just missed the cut.
MPJ?
There's no real order to it. It just was all the players that came to my mind. Some notable names on there. Truth be told, there have been a pretty decent amount of disappointing players this season. I know there's disappointing players every season, but this season it seems like there's a little bit more for whatever reason. Anyway, enough with the pleasantries. Let's get down to brass tacks. Starting with number 10, Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, to me, is kind of the forgotten first overall pick of recent memory. People remember Anthony Edwards, they remember Zion Williamson, obviously they know Wemby, but Cade Cunningham kind of just gets thrown in there. He had a decent rookie year.
I think him and Paolo are the two most we don't give a shit about not MVPs, number one overall picks in recent memory. That also panned out, in my opinion. Like, they weren't ass out the gate. They're not showing promise of being stars in the future. It's just people don't care. It's kind of crazy.
And then he had an injury-plagued second season. And coming into this season was supposed to be a major year into getting what his potential might be like. And we all knew the Pistons were going to be dog shit, and they have been dog shit. And Cunningham has put up nice raw averages, but this is a textbook good stats, bad team guy. He's been...
Oh, I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree with this. So looking at these stats, and I believe they changed a little bit, so I'll give y'all the most updated stats. We're looking at 23 points, 7 to 8 assists, 4 rebounds, 45% for the field. That was a crazy voice crack. 36% for 3, and 87% from the line. Given that this guy is 22, have we seen players do better at age 22? Have we seen players do better in year 3? Absolutely. But given the help around this guy, the lack of spacing around this guy, he's definitely not getting open threes. He's not spotting up for threes like that. So this 36% on 5 threes attempt, from my understanding, a lot of that is like contested, off the dribble shit. The fact that he's even shooting 45% from the field, in my opinion, is good. And 87% from the line. I don't know how you can complain about 87% from the line. He's giving you 8 assists with not a crazy assist to turnover ratio. I'm sorry, he doesn't have help. He doesn't have help. And there's nothing about his skill set that tells me this guy is disappointing me this season. He didn't regress as a scorer, he improved. He didn't regress as a playmaker, he improved. And defensively, I think this is one of those situations where you just look at the tools that he got, and there's nothing that tells me that Cade Cunningham is about to be a defensive liability. So I don't get it. I don't get it. Should he be playing guard in the future, point guard in the future? I think that's the question to be had. But if I'm telling you that I got a 6'6" point guard at 22 years old who can put up 23 and 8 already, on decent efficiency on a team with no help, I don't know how that's disappointing. Now, this is actually a crazy first pick.
been extremely inefficient, at least relative to league average. And he's gotten a bit of a pass for a lot of this because he is in Detroit and because nobody gives a shit about Detroit besides Pistons fans. And this is not to say that Cade Cunningham cannot become a better player, but for a first overall pick, he's just not a guy that I see thus far in his career. And again, still young career, but thus far in his career, I was expecting him to take a bigger leap than he has. One of the things that I look at a lot is, does a guy impact winning beyond his raw stats. And even for the Pistons' terrible standards, the Pistons are a worse basketball team this season pretty noticeably when Cade Cunningham is on the court. And I've been a champion of the Pistons need to do a complete and total rebuild, and I think they can get some good pieces for Cade Cunningham. He'd be a good starting point. I don't think he is the point guard of the future there. Some might say it's a little harsh. Guess what I say? It's my opinion, and I'm moving on to the next pick. Number 9, Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins, another former number 1 overall pick. In somewhat of the same mold as Cade Cunningham, he was drafted to a team that everyone knew would be bad in Minnesota, and he put up some nice raw numbers in Minnesota. His advanced numbers were terrible in Minnesota, like Cade Cunningham's are in Detroit. The difference is that Wiggins found some salvation in a second opportunity in Golden State once he got traded there. He was a big part of their 2022 title run, obviously, for his defense and for his offensive rebounding and putbacks in crucial situations. He helped bail out Steph Curry in Game 5 of the 2022 finals, but then he was in the middle of one of his best seasons ever last year and had some personal things interrupted. He came back this year and has just been so below par, and a big reason why the Warriors haven't been the Warriors we've become accustomed to knowing, which is not a bad thing in my opinion because I hate them, but he's just...
Yeah, I think from that 22 run, there were a couple of players that I think the Warriors were kind of banking on to improve and become that next guy up. Because if you look at that 22 Warriors team, that Warriors team was deep as shit. And a big part of that was the fact that on top of Klay was back, on top of Draymond being there, the fact that they had Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins as more offensive weapons that were really effective. And this season, they just don't have that. You know what I'm saying? Like, Andrew Wiggins is supposed to, like, Klay, if he dropped off the season, which a lot of people would say he did, Andrew Wiggins is supposed to be that guy that slots in there in terms of that role. Or Jordan Poole, you know, but, you know, a bunch of things happened with this team. I think this team should have lasted a little bit longer than... I don't think this team should have fallen off that quick, the way that it did, but...
Declined all across the board. And the biggest thing, again, you look at the on-off splits. His on-off splits have completely tanked, and he's basically acted as an anchor. He has somehow made the Steph Curry minutes a sweat, which used to be guaranteed. But now, even Steph Curry, his on-off splits aren't impressive because he's sharing the court a lot with Andrew Wiggins.
I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with the video, but Bronny declared for the draft. This is crazy. Bronny James will enter the 2024 NBA draft while maintaining his college eligibility and will also enter the transfer portal. That's crazy. That has nothing to do with this video, but...
Now, I will say there is maybe some hope. He has started to play a little bit better again since the emergence of Jonathan Kuminga, and I think because the pressure of having to be the second or third option offensively might be too much for him, even though athletically he has the ability to be the first option and be a first or second option. Mentally, he seems more fit to be a fourth or fifth option offensively. That's what he was when they won it a couple years ago. Kuminga improving makes Kuminga the second option or third option behind Steph and Klay. That slots Wiggins back to a fourth or fifth option offensively, where he can now focus more on defense. Who knows, but thus far, it's been a disappointing year for the disappointing first overall pick of 2014. Womp womp. Number 8, Scoot Henderson. Now, I try to be sympathetic towards rookies because obviously rookies in the NBA, it's not an easy job. You're adjusting to a brand new lifestyle. You go from playing against amateurs to playing against grown men. And Scoot Henderson, though, a lot of contrarians out there, maybe not a lot, but there were some contrarians out there that said, hey, this guy should be going over Wemby because Wemby's this tall, scrawny French dude. Scoot Henderson is built like a Mack truck, even though he's only a teenager. You'll never guess what the flaws of Scoot Henderson's game are. Oh, wow, he can't shoot the ball. Because if he could shoot the ball, there's a reason with his freak athleticism and his incredible LeBron-esque build, that he could probably have gone number 1 overall over Wemby. But because of his lack of shooting ability and his turnover proneness, his numbers and production have been terrible. Now, again...
I think it's fair to say that Scoot's rookie season has been disappointing, especially with how certain motherfuckers were talking about him going into the draft, being over Wemby and shit like that. For a second overall pick, obviously this is not no marker of his future and his potential because he is a 19-year-old rookie, and I understand Wemby is as well, but Wemby is an outlier of outliers. That's what makes him crazy. 14-5-3 in your rookie season. It's really just the efficiency. If you average 14-5 in 3, but his efficiency was good. I don't think motherfuckers will be complaining. But from my understanding, though, since like January, he's actually been pretty decent. If I can pull up these numbers real quick, and if this website would cooperate with me, please and thank you. All right, let's go here. Let's go all the way to here. So, okay, he's still at 40%. Hold on, man. Let's do this. Can we go here? Okay, here we go. A little bit better. 35% from 3. 6 assists, 17 points. So he's gone on decent stretches this season. All you're really trying to get out of a guy like Scoot is just, for his rookie season, is just getting his feet warm. You know, getting his feet warm. This is going to be another tanking season for the Blazers. It ended up being another tanking season for the Blazers. Let's just get those pieces around Scooty Patootie Henderson and keep on pushing. Now, if by year 3 he's still playing like this, we're going to have some conversations. But year 1, he's chilling.
He's on a bad team. He's on a team that's rebuilding. But you got a PER that's under 9. You're in negative win shares. This isn't the end of the world. There are certain good players, even great players, like Russell Westbrook is an example, who had rookie seasons that were being used a lot, and they had high value, but their advanced stats were terrible, and they eventually became obviously impactful players. So I'm not saying that this is the end game for Scoot Henderson, but considering some of the hype and the fact that he was picked 3rd overall, and the fact that Wemby has lived up to all the hype of being the next great freak, and Brandon Miller has actually looked pretty decent, Scoot Henderson at 3rd seems like a pretty bad pick thus far, and he's also not impacted winning, so he lands at number 8. Number 7, Mikal Bridges. This is an example of a guy who is not a terrible player, but a guy who has not taken the leap or been as consistent for the Nets as he was last season after being traded there. The one thing he has been consistent in, and this is something that broadcasts go out of their way to mention every fucking time he plays, is that he is durable as fuck. He's never missed a game, or he's played in some 350 plus, by far the most active consecutive games played streak, which in today's NBA, where you have a lot of the load management issue and guys taking games off, that's a big accomplishment now. But you look at when he got traded to the Nets, he was a big part of their run to the postseason last year after they traded away the human vagina Kevin Durant. 26 points last year with the Nets in about...
The human vagina Kevin Durant is crazy. Yo!
30 games. This year, that's dropped down to 21.5 on worse efficiency. His true shooting percentage with the Nets last year, 61. His PER was 21. Those are all-star, legit all-star caliber numbers. Those have dropped significantly this season with more of a load. And also, again, I always usually go back to this. His on-off, his impact rating has not been good. The Nets have been outscored with him on the court. They are worse with him on the court. It's just been...
We gotta be careful with how we use these on-off numbers. I don't think I've ever seen on-off numbers be used as much as they have been over this last year, to be honest with you, because I've been known about on-off numbers since like 2018, 2017. Like I've looked at those numbers before, but the reason why I stopped using them is because of the fact that they really do depend on the rotations of the team. They like a big part of that is the rotations of the team. You know, if you have a stronger bench, if you have a stronger second unit, the drop off is not going to be as much as if you didn't have a bench. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Just all I'm saying is be careful when using this specific stat because it can be very misleading. It's with any stat, you know, just make sure we're using it in the proper context. But with Mikal, I agree. The way y'all were specifically talking about him after the trade deadline, 26 and 4 and 5 on good efficiency while being a two-way monster. Damn, y'all were talking about him like he's gonna be this, you know, JT, Paul George level player, and I just don't think Mikal is that. I just don't, especially given his age, because Mikal is not a young player. You know what I'm saying? And you know, with trade reports going out there of the Nets passing up on a crazy package involving Jalen Green and a bunch of future first round picks, for Mikal to effectively be a 27, about to be 28, 27, about to be 28-year-old, averaging 25 and 4, And y'all are being this stingy with them. I think it's crazy. I think Mikal is not a first option, a guy you build around. Mikal is I think he'd be a good number 2. He'd be a good number 2 to any team. I think he's proven that at the very least. He can be a Chris Middleton type of player. He can be a Jaylen Brown type of player. But as a number 1 franchise cornerstone dude, he's just not what y'all made him out to be after he got traded there. Yeah, I like Mikal though.
A disappointing year for a guy who there's really no reason why he shouldn't be averaging 25 points a game again for a team like the Nets that aren't a great team, and he's one of their best players. Number 6, Jalen Green. Look, I will say Jalen Green's a handsome guy. That's why he was able to snag a cougar like Drea. But in terms of his ability to play basketball, winning basketball specifically for a team like Houston that is trying to rebuild and does have some good pieces, Jalen Green this season has been a monumental disappointment. Here's the deal. Jalen Green, he's just a shot chucker. He just chucks up shots and he's not very efficient. He's never been that efficient, but he's never been less efficient than he has been this season. And that might be acceptable if the volume of your points goes up, okay? But not only is Jalen Green averaging fewer points than he ever has, he's averaging a lower effective field goal percentage than he ever has. And his on-off splits are worse than they've ever been for a Houston team that's trying to get better. It's obvious that he does not fit in with the time frame there.
Well, like I said, this video was made in February 26th. And let me tell you this, man. Jalen Green has made a lot of people eat their words. And I would be curious to see what Barry thinks about this after the stretch that he's had. For the season, you could still probably make the argument that he's been disappointing. And I think Houston this season, they're trying to weed out the young players. Who really is about to make the cut? Who really is a future cornerstone of this team? But I'm not going to lie, somehow, some way, every single one of their young players has proven to be players that could be a really big part of their future. Like, Houston has a lot of really good young talent. Like, Sengun specifically, he has stood out. Okay, he's safe. You know what I'm saying? He's not on the chopping block. 21, 9, and 5, good efficiency, effective as shit. 21 years old. Sengun is here to stay. Jabari, 70 games at 20 years old, 14 and 8, crazy length, 45, 36, 83. In my opinion, I think he's proven that, okay, this guy can stay. Amen was injured throughout, Amen was injured throughout the beginning of the season. But if we look at how he's been playing lately, let me go over here. Crazy athlete, and this is over the last 11 games. 15 points, 10 rebounds, 2 to 3 assists, 1.5 steals, 55% from the field. Even if we want to stretch it out here, we're still looking at relatively the same thing. 14 and 8 to 9 rebounds, really good rebounding numbers. Even stretch it out to here, right? This is a 23-game sample size now. In 26 minutes, we're looking at 12 points, 8 rebounds, a steal and a block a game on good efficiency. Like, man has been good. You know what I'm saying? Cam Whitmore has been good. Tari Eason, he hasn't played that much this season, but from what I've been seeing, he's been like, he's a culture guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, even Draymond has said the closest thing to him in terms of the young guys is Tari Eason. And he's been very big on trying to press the Warriors over this last week. So I like that out of him. Like, Houston, I think, in my opinion, the most underrated rebuild in the league. Just because I remember the narratives last offseason. I even hosted a debate show. And when motherfuckers said the Houston Rockets had one of the best off seasons after signing Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, people laughed at the door. People laughed at them. But in hindsight, I think, this is a team with a lot of young talent. This is a team that needs veteran leadership. It needs some sort of winning culture. It needs some sort of culture on this team. And adding former NBA champion Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, a guy known for his defense, his personality, his tenacity. that money had to go somewhere. And putting it towards those guys for this team, I think that was perfect. I think that was perfect. They even got Jeff Green on the team too. You know what I'm saying? NBA champion Jeff Green. I really like what the Houston Rockets did this year. But in terms of Jalen Green, though, like I said, a guy who definitely, in terms of weeding out the young players, let me tell you right now, it was looking like up until this last stretch, it was Jalen Green. We found the imposter, chat. You know what I'm saying? What can we get for Jalen Green type shit? Because we have been waiting a decent amount of time for Jalen Green now. I know he's a young player, and a decent amount of time is crazy. Talking about a year 3 player at 21 years old. But Jalen Green was not looking that good for a number 2 overall pick, consensus number 2 overall pick in his draft class. But boy, these last X amount of games, let me even stretch it out to here. What is this? The last 14 games, we're looking at 27 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds, 48, 41, 77, bro. Jalen Green has definitely shown the promise that I think he needed to show to be like, hold on, do we really want to give this guy up? You know? I'm even looking, this is a 34 game sample size now, so this is closest to half of the season. 23.6 rebounds, 4 assists, 45, 35, 81 from a 21-year-old player. That's a lot of promise. That's a lot of promise. It's just when we look at the beginning of the season, I don't know, up to here, first 30 games, straight cheeks. And I think this part of the season has really fucked his averages up. But for anyone who's been keeping up with the second half season Houston Rockets, I actually think up until the recent stretch, they haven't been winning as much, but in terms of Jalen Green's play, Jalen Green's been good. He's been good.
Alfred Sengun. They got Jabari Smith Jr. Even Dylan Brooks, who was like the biggest fucking villain and seen as one of the biggest scrubs in the NBA all this offseason, has come in. He's shooting over 40%. He has his issues, I know. Okay, but Jalen Green really does nothing to help your basketball team win. And when you're playing him 30 minutes a game and you're giving him 15 shots or so, you're just making your team worse because he doesn't really play defense at all either. He's nothing special as a defender. Obviously, they invested a lot in him as a former top 2 pick in 2021. Personally, I think the Rockets should fully rebuild around Sengun. He could be like their poor man's version of Jokic. As I said, Jabari Smith Jr., I like his game. Amen Thompson has shown a lot of potential. I think they should really replace a lot of Green's minutes with Thompson's minutes. Brooks has been solid for them, and I know the Rockets have tailed off a bit after a really strong start to the season, but there is hope in Houston, but Jalen Green is not going to be the answer long term. I think we have enough of a sample size.
One more year now.
Number 5, Bradley Beal. I was somewhat torn on whether to include Beal or not, because in a weird way, we all know Bradley Beal's injury history. We all know the fact that, he's just a good stats, bad team guy in Washington. He was already a little bit on the decline as well because he had back-to-back 30-point seasons in 2020 and 2021. Some of the most empty and hollow 30-point seasons ever, by the way. It's ridiculous. I don't know offhand because I was too lazy to look it up for this video.
I disagree with the whole empty stats shit now. I will say that. I don't think empty stats are a thing. I just think as NBA fans, we just need to contextualize what stats mean. But to say those numbers didn't mean anything or they weren't producing winning basketball, it's on some like, okay, this is this player's situation. What do you want them to do? Not put up 30? And now if they put up 30, now it's a problem? Like I don't get it, bro.
But Bradley Beal's record in games where he had over like 40 points is so horrifically bad. It's like a losing record. So the question about Beal is, does he impact winning? And when you're joining a team, this is supposed to be the next super team for Kevin Durant now with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. And to nobody's surprise, he's continued to have injury issues. He's only played in 30 games. Yeah. And even when he's been on the court, he has not been the same Bradley Beal. It's not surprising to see that his raw stats go down, particularly as a scorer. He was averaging 23 his last couple years of Washington. Now he's down to 18. That's going to happen when you go from being the first option on a bad team to the third option on a good team. Hello, Chris Bosh and Kevin Love. LeBron haters that try to make that out to seem like LeBron made them worse. Anyway, but Bradley Beal's injury history, the fact that when he's been on the court this year, he hasn't been great. He's been worse. His player efficiency rating in Washington was about 20 last season. It's dropped below 15, which is supposed to be league average. It's about 15. But anyway, he hasn't been great when he's been on the court, and he hasn't been on the court for half the season. And he's getting paid a shitload of money. So unless he comes back for the playoffs and the Suns...
I don't care about the PR stat, by the way. I'm pretty sure that's like that's a stat that goes up or down depending on how much touches you got. So you acknowledging that he is a third option and his PR is saying that I don't know about using PR. I thought we was done with PR, man. That's a 2017 ass stat.
Suns go on a title run, which they could do, but I wouldn't hold my breath. The Bradley Beal trade is going to be talked about as a massive step back for the Suns franchise. But on the other hand, it really can't get much worse for them than the way it ended the last 3 years. You blow a 2-0 lead in the finals, and then you get blown out at home in Game 7 in back-to-back seasons in the conference semifinals. So, yeah, what do I know?
Yeah, I agree. Bradley Beal should be on this list. For me, it's not even his play. It's just the fact that he's been injured, dog. Like, again, I've been saying this all season. The Suns have punted on a lot to build that big three. And for that big three to barely play together. Because there's a decent amount of these games. I know he played 47 where, like, D-Book was out, where KD was out. I don't even know the stat for how many games all three of them have played. But, like, when they are playing 17, 5, and 4 on 50, 40, 80, 50, 39, 80, I think those are pretty decent numbers from Bradley Beal from a third option. I'm not expecting any much more than this. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was already averaging 23 as the first or second option on the Wizards. So the play isn't the problem to me. And I don't know what y'all expected out of Bradley Beal, who has had injury issues, going to a different role with higher expectations and less depth. But, yeah.
4, Patrick Williams. Now, this is a selection that I feel like there are a lot of Bulls fans that might agree with me. Patrick Williams is one of those guys, and this is one of the things about the NBA that I do like, is if you really ask a lot of casual fans, they really don't know who the fuck Patrick Williams is. And that's interesting to me because this dude was a top 4 pick in 2020. When you're getting picked 4th overall, you are expected to be an impactful, franchise-changing type of player. And thus far in Williams' career, he has been anything but for the Chicago Bulls. And I feel like for whatever reason, whenever people talk about the most disappointing players or draft bust, blah, blah, he never really gets brought up. And it's weird to me because he's just turned out to be another guy. He, entering this season, entering his 4th year as a negative contributor to the Chicago Bulls, I just feel like, why the fuck does this guy not get called out more? So I figured...
You know why? And Bulls fans are going to hate me for this. No one cares about the Bulls. No one cares about the Bulls. And it's because of the fact that they have been a middle-of-the-pack team for the last 2 to 3 years and have sat on their toes. I don't even know if that's the right saying. But they're not a rebuilding team. So when you watch them, the focus isn't even fully on a Kobe White and a Patrick Williams because you're too busy watching DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and fucking Nikola Vucevic and all of these other dudes. But yeah, they're not a rebuilding team, but they're also not a championship contender. So it's like, what is the reason to watch Chicago Bulls basketball? To me, you know, it's just they are the definition of a NBA team. And if you want to watch hoops and they're a solid watch. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of, you know, watching for certain players, because you don't even see Patrick Williams get the touches that he should have, in my opinion, because again of the other players that they got. It's just no one cares about the Bulls. Long story short, I don't even want to drag it. No one cares about them.
Well, I might as well put him on blast, even though I'm sure he's a good guy. None of this matters now, though, because he literally just had a season-ending injury, so his chances of having a comeback season this year or coming back off of a slow start. I mean, it's slow start. He's had a slow start his whole career. He missed most of his second season, came back last year, shot over 40%. He's about a 40% three-point shooter for his career, which is nice, but he doesn't really impact winning. He misses a lot of dunks, doesn't pass. The only accolade he has is a 2021 all-rookie team. team, which is, it's not really anything great. The guy just has not developed into what you want a top 4 pick to be. And this year was supposed to be a year where he really broke through for a team that needs him to break through. It's not like the Bulls have a bunch of fucking Hall of Famers, right, that he's hiding behind. No, he's supposed to be one of the cornerstones, and he just isn't that guy. You're not that guy.
I just need him to, number one, be healthy, and number two, give him the opportunity to even be a franchise cornerstone. And then we'll have these discussions. And then we can talk about that shit. But until then, I wouldn't put Patrick Williams in this discussion.
Guy, pal. Number 3, Damian Loyalty Lillard. This one was one that I think a lot of people might have expected, because I would say Lillard during the offseason, he was the biggest, I would say, get during this past offseason. And people said, well, the Bucks are just going to waltz to a championship now. They got Giannis and Dame. And I wasn't as confident about that. Who knows? You never know what happens in the playoffs. But thus far in Milwaukee, he did win the All-Star Game MVP, which doesn't matter. And the only thing he's done at an excellent level, or at least at the level he's really been expected to do, is shoot free throws. He leads the league in free throw percentage, which is why his true shooting percentage is still decent, but it's far below where it was his last season in Portland. His last year in Portland, last season, when he had no expectations and he was expected to lose and everything, averaged over 32 a game on super great efficiency. But then finally, after years of pussyfooting around it, he gets out of there. And again, it's not a surprise to see his per game averages go down, particularly as a scorer, when you're sharing the ball with Giannis Antetokounmpo and you're going from being the first option to a second option. I understand that, but his efficiency has fallen completely off of a cliff, going from about a 65 true shooting percentage, which is excellent last season, to 59, which still isn't bad. It's above average, but that's a big drop. His player efficiency rating went from 27 to about a 20. He's shooting 34% from 3, which for an alleged elite marksman is not that great. He doesn't play defense. Again, I'm not to say that he isn't valuable, because the on-off splits he has for Milwaukee are very good, but people want to know why Milwaukee fired their coach and why they're not as dominant, I guess, as they probably should be, or why they haven't been as dominant as they have been in years past. It's because largely Damian Lillard's been disappointing. But again, if he goes on and he steps up in the playoffs and helps Giannis and the Bucks get another championship, then all is forgiven. But again, considering Dame's very, very spotty playoff history, despite his reputation as a clutch performer, I have serious doubts that he will be the guy to help Giannis get ring number 2. No offense.
I think that last part is the key part when it comes to the Dame conversation, because at the end of the day, push comes to shove, Damian Lillard was brought in there for playoff success. At the end of the day. So all of this mid right here will be forgiven if in the playoffs they make a conference title run, or they make an NBA Finals championship run. Fuck it. Damian Lillard goes off. You see the value of a Damian Lillard because of his ability to table set, his ability to create in the half court next to Giannis when Giannis is getting locked the fuck up, or just make, and even making the job easier for Giannis because of how effective Dame is in the playoffs. A lot of this will be forgiven in the playoffs if he does show up. But in this season, yeah, Damian Lillard has been disappointing. This has been the poster child for a majority of his career of a dude being wasted on a bad team. Because we see the talent that is Dame. We know what he's capable of, but his talents are being wasted on a bad team. So we were like, damn, let's put him on a championship contender where he doesn't have to carry the load as much. Did we all expect his stats to go down given the new role? Absolutely. I did not expect, even when Giannis said this is Dame's team, I did not expect Dame to still be the 32, 7-5 guy from the season prior. I was expecting more 25 to 26 points a game. I was expecting more playmaking and more passing from Dame this season. So to see his assists go down was kind of eh. His assist to turnover ratio is good though, so I'll give him that. But I was expecting a stat line more so like 26, 9, and 4, and specifically the efficiency to go up. I just always thought, bro, all of the shots Dame has been taking in Portland have been contested. He's been the number one option, the focal point of those defenses. He's the guy teams are game planning for. And when you go on a team with Giannis, who has his own gravity, with the shooters that Milwaukee has, I expected Dame to be more efficient. I expected this to be closer to 47, 48, maybe even 50. I expected this to be closer to 38, 39, maybe even 40. I was expecting closer to a 50, 40, 90 season from Dame. I'm going to keep it a stack. If you want to say those are lofty expectations, I guess. But maybe 46, 39, 92. I think that would have got the job done. I think that would have beat a lot of the allegations. But yeah, I don't know how you can look at this season and say he hasn't been disappointing. And it's just the performances too, bro. Like going 9-29. Like Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Like look at some of these. 2-12 against the Kings. 4 of 18 against the Bulls. Like 5 of 18 versus the Jazz. 5 of 13. 8 of 21. 4 of 15. Like some of these performances are straight dookie. Straight dookie. So Dame, listen, I think you are lucky we do live in a media climate where ultimately people they want to say they do, but people don't care about the regular season, man. Just do what you got to do in the playoffs, and all will be forgiven. That's how Jimmy Butler has gotten his reputation over the last 2 to 3 years. So.
Odell Beckham. Speaking of number 2, AJ Griffin lands second on my list. And I'm sure some of you are saying, who? AJ Griffin. Isn't that the Bucks head coach? No, that was Adrian Griffin. This is his son, AJ Griffin. Now, I'm not a college scout. I don't watch college basketball really because I think it's terrible. But coming out of college, I thought to myself, this AJ Griffin guy can really shoot. He has a good build. I thought he could be really good. And his rookie season, as you're seeing by these highlights I'm putting on here in a video where I'm supposed to be talking about how disappointing he is, this is just to emphasize my point. These are all from his rookie season. So this was a rookie, a teenage rookie, making moves like this, hitting game winners, moving in the post, had a really, really well-rounded game.
Why are we comparing him to Kobe? What are we doing? Why are we comparing AJ Griffin to Kobe? What?
Important part of their rotation. And for what it's worth, he was putting up comparable numbers to a rookie Kobe Bryant. Now, obviously, I'm not saying he was going to become Kobe Bryant, but it's not the worst spot. It was something that gave Hawks fans hope. Hey, maybe we can get this guy to develop as a third option along with Trey and DeJounte Murray. And this season's just been a complete and utter fucking disaster in every way imaginable. His season 9 points is 6. He fell out of the rotation, which still, I don't know, there must be something going on behind the scenes. Anyway, they eventually sent him down to the G League a couple weeks ago, and then he got injured in his G League debut and is now out indefinitely. But just look at all the numbers, his raw numbers, his advanced numbers, his on-off splits. It's just been a complete fall from grace. That really is unexplainable. But there's still one player this season who has been even more unexplainably terrible, and that is number 1, Jordan Poole. I know everybody for a fact expected Jordan Poole to be averaging close to about 30 points a game this year for a terrible Washington team. And honestly, I was one of those guys because based on what I saw in Golden State, here was a guy who was capable of going off for 30 points. And obviously he had his massive inefficiency issues and he had his inconsistencies and his quirks. I get all that. But you're saying, oh, well, he's going to a terrible team where there's no pressure. He has the green light every night. There's no reason to think he can't average 30. He might not average an efficient 30, but he'll get you close to 30. And it has been nothing like that. And this guy is only 24 years old, so it doesn't make any sense. A couple years ago, he was averaging a hyper-efficient 17 points per game in the playoffs for a championship team. On the biggest stage in the sport, he hit major shots in the finals for Golden State to help them win a championship. Last year, he averaged over 20 points a game. I know he had some issues in the locker room and Draymond Green physically assaulted him. Probably should have been arrested for it, but whatever. And then he goes to Washington and it's just like, my goodness. I mean, are the women there that unattractive that they are?
Not too much. Not too much on DC. Ruby Rose is there one game. Now, he did sell that one game, but not too much.
aren't able to motivate him to shoot the ball better than this? My goodness, he's not even cracking 40% from the field overall. Everything, his efficiency, he's one of the most inefficient players in the league that's getting major minutes on a team that is absolutely terrible, which is what everybody expected. This really might be the first time I can ever remember where a player who was young and was known for being very volatile, very hot and cold, goes from a title contending situation averaging 20 points per game to a terrible team with a green light and somehow produces even less points on worse efficiency than ever before. I can't really recall, at least off the top of my head.
This is crazy. The one thing I do want to look at if he's had like a late season resurgence. Let me just look at that because I think he has actually. I think he has. Hold on, let me see. Let's see. Seeing a lot of high 20s in this stretch. Oh, that's 7. Ooh. Over the last 10 games, 21, 7 and 4, 45, 34, 96. A little bit better. Let's go over, what is this, last 20? Last 20, 26 and 3, 45, 36, 93. He's gotten a little better as the season is closed. I will say that. But yeah, I do still think the number 1 overall pick in terms of this video should be Jordan Poole. I'm not mad at Jordan Poole for being that guy in this video. Yeah, I was definitely on this is a James Harden situation with Jordan Poole. A guy who needs the ball in his hands to be effective. A guy who wasn't getting touches on a team because of Steph Curry. And, you know, Klay Thompson's there too. You're not about to get those touches away from Klay. So, you know, when he goes to a situation where he does have that green light, he's about to go off. And just disappointment all around. I don't blame people for saying that. And in hindsight, instead of a James Harden situation, this may be we just built around Jamal Crawford situation. Like, it respect to Jamal, but I think Jamal was, you know, kind of the same thing. Maybe not. Okay, because he was starting and then became a really good bench player. So that may be a bad one to him. But maybe like a reverse Jamal situation, or like he was coming off the bench earlier in his career. He looked effective. Oh my God, Jamal with the ball in his hands is so crazy. Let's see what he could do as a first option. And then as a first option, it's like, ooh, he doesn't have playmaking abilities. He's not a good passer. He's not a good defender. He does need the space to create. So that may be what it is with Jordan Poole. Just, you know, you put the wrong player in the wrong situation, and you get a season like this. But with that being said, hey man, Barry, shout out to you for the video. Links to Barry's video will be in the description down below. But with that being said, I'm up, man. Peace.